Welcome back to Vuln Vibes. Today we're going deep on something that should have everyone's attention, especially if you're dealing with Kubernetes.
Yeah, definitely. Big one today. We're looking at a token theft vulnerability found in JumpServer, and the potential fallout is, well, pretty serious. We're talking about unauthorized access to Kubernetes clusters.
Right, and we know a lot of you out there are using JumpServer to manage access to those very environments.
Exactly. So this isn't just some hypothetical what-if scenario. This is a real vulnerability with real-world implications. And we've got some solid source material to break down to help you understand the risk and what you need to do to protect yourself.
So let's jump right into it. This vulnerability, it basically allows a low-privilege user, someone who's already authenticated on JumpServer.
Right. They already have some level of access.
Right, exactly. But with this vulnerability, they can potentially escalate their privileges.
And gain access to Kubernetes cluster access tokens. That's the real prize here.
Okay, so how does this actually work? What's the mechanism?
So it all hinges on the kubeconfig file.
Right, the kubeconfig. It's that file that tells kubectl, the command line tool, how to talk to the Kubernetes API.
Exactly. Now, here's the thing. This vulnerability allows a user to actually modify that kubeconfig file.
Oh, I see. So they can change the destination of those API calls.
Exactly. And so those calls going to the legitimate Kubernetes API server, they can redirect them.
Redirect them to where? Like, what's the target?
Typically, it'd be an external server that the attacker controls. Something like a malicious webhook.
Okay, so they're essentially setting up a fake endpoint.
Right, a fake endpoint that masquerades as the real Kubernetes API server, the goal, to capture those access tokens.
And here's the scary part. When someone runs a standard kubectl command, that request, which includes the cluster's access token,
It gets sent right to the attacker's webhook.
boom, token exfiltrated. The attacker now has a valid cluster access token, and that's when things can get really bad, right?
Oh, absolutely. With that token, they can authenticate against the Kubernetes API. They've bypassed all the usual security checks.
And the level of access they get, that depends on the permissions tied to the stolen token, right?
Precisely. But think about it. What kind of access do those tokens usually have? It can be pretty extensive. We're talking potential privilege escalation, data theft.
All the sensitive data that's accessible through the API, like secrets, configuration details, that's all up for grabs.
They could tamper with cluster configurations, disrupt deployments, even create backdoors.
And in a worst-case scenario, we could be looking at remote code execution on the cluster.
Absolutely. The implications are pretty severe. And JumpServer, they've acknowledged this vulnerability.
Yeah, they've issued an advisory explicitly warning about the potential for unauthorized access and full compromise.
And they've released patched versions. We're talking about versions 3.0.18 and 4.7.0.
So for everyone out there using JumpServer to manage access to their Kubernetes clusters,
Patching is absolutely critical. It's not just a suggestion, it's a necessity.
this vulnerability really highlights the risks that come with using intermediary systems to access sensitive environments like Kubernetes. Even a seemingly low privilege account can become a major threat.
And that brings us to a bigger question. Beyond patching JumpServer, what other layers of security and monitoring do you have in place? How are you protecting your Kubernetes clusters from unauthorized API access, even if credentials are compromised?
It's all about a defense in depth strategy.
Okay.
Think about it. What proactive measures are you taking to limit the blast radius if an attacker does manage to get their hands on a valid access token? Can you detect suspicious API activity? Can you respond quickly to contain the damage?
This vulnerability in JumpServer is a wake-up call. It's a reminder that we can't afford to be complacent when it comes to Kubernetes security. We need to be vigilant, proactive, and always thinking about those next layers of defense.
Absolutely. So much great food for thought there. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone. Stay safe out there.